everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chanel in the City. I'm your host, Chanel Omari, and I have such a special guest here with us today, such an exciting inspiration here today. She is a lawyer, a very amazing lawyer. She's also the host of Revolt on Thursdays, every Thursday, so make sure you check her out, one of my favorite shows ever. She's beautiful, she's intelligent, she's the star of the Real Housewives of New York City, okay, and the star and host of Holding Court podcast, airing right now on iHeartRadio, so don't you forget about that. Eboni K. Williams is in the building, the legend herself.
Hey, Chanel.
How are you? Thank you for coming.
Oh, I'm so happy that, at least at this point in the pandemic, we can start to have some in-person conversation.
Yes.
How fun is that?
So much fun, and I felt like this was important because I love you so much.
Oh, thank you, Chanel. You're so sweet.
I think you're such an inspiration, genuinely, and I'm sure you hear it over and over again because you just had, this is a phenomenal season.
Thank you. Listen, this is a lot. This season's a lot. It's tough. We filmed in the peak of the pandemic in New York City, which for people that don't live in the city, aren't from the city, it just was totally unlike anything else the nation experienced. It wasn't Florida, it wasn't Jersey. We were peak lockdown, and then, we had a production company and network who did their due diligence to make sure that everybody was as safe as possible. So we were really restricted. But we did our best as a cast and as an ensemble to deliver a really authentic, really intimate season.
Yeah. And I just love, so I know this is a question you probably get asked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel to be the first Black woman part of a, and I'm going to say this out loud, right? Because I know that you're going to educate us and you're going to teach us, even though you're like, I didn't sign up for this shit.
Sure.
But to be the first Black woman on a very legendary cast, which was predominantly white, and it is hard to just come in as a newbie itself. Now we're bringing in,
a whole new race, a whole new lens, a whole new experience. And obviously there's a little bit of a generational, gap between me and, the legendary veteran cast members. It's been my honor, Chanel. It's been tough. It's been challenging. I think that's obvious. But it's also, I just want to be clear, this has been a historic experience for me too, humbling. There's not a day that goes by where I'm not engaging with someone on the streets of New York or elsewhere, where someone is saying that it's nice to see themselves reflected on the show that they have loved. Black women watch this show too and have for 13 years and love it. And it's just nice for them to see themselves reflected this season.
Does it ever insult you or offend you when someone asks you, how does it feel to be the first Black woman? Or
No. I mean, that's the thing. I'm really not easily offended. I don't suffer fools well, but that's different than I love questions. I'm full of questions. I'm the most curious, dorky student ever. So, I love when people feel they can be comfortable enough to walk up to me, even on a date. I was on a first date last Thursday. I guess it was Soho, kind of. And this amazing trio of young men just were like, sorry, date, we need a picture with Eboni. And it was sweet and cute and lovely. So
that's amazing. Well, so talk about that a little bit,
Yeah.
Because you are single and you were married.
Yes.
And you're a powerful woman in New York City dating.
Yes.
You're on a very big reality TV show.
Yes.
How is that? How did that guy feel? Was he strong enough to be like, yeah, that's my woman and I'm asking her out again?
Well, Chanel, slow down. Okay. It was a first date. Okay. I don't know about no.
Here I am, the Jewish matchmaker.
It wasn't all of, he was lovely, but it was no dice on that. Sweet, but no. But he was really lovely, and he was the first guy because, I actually hired a professional matchmaker.
Right.
And I'm really loving the process. It's taught me so much about myself already and dating and my expectations of me, my expectations of myself and what I'm bringing to the relationship. We'll get to that. But this was the first guy that admitted, at least, that he knew I was on the show. Because you know how, the matchmakers are very discreet and they, thank God, don't lead with that because that is annoying. And I would imagine for most men that I'm looking for to be a turnoff. I don't think that the kind of man that I'm looking to partner with is into being Mr. RHONY. if you feel me, you know?
Why do you think that?
Oh, well, I'm looking for a particular type of man, Chanel, a man who's probably older in life, a man who is very well established in his own right. And I think that the guys that are really into like their women being on TV, period, and especially this type of platform, I think they could be a little thirsty. You know, it's one thing to support, you know, whatever platform or work your partner and wife is doing. It's another when you're like thirsty for it. You know what I mean? So I try to stay away from guys that look to be on camera. Even when I was in news, I didn't date other on-air talent.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a thing I have.
I agree with you. And because I felt like in being in TV in general, it was hard, but then some people would make it work.
And it can, and thank God that it can. And I hope to be in the number of success stories, right? But not leading with it. So the other dates I've had, I don't think they had any idea I was on this particular show. Now, listen, they knew I was in news. They knew I hosted television. They knew I was a producer, but they definitely didn't know I was a housewife. But they were getting suspicious, like when, you know, lovely viewers would come up and be like, they're like, I don't know that news anchors are still getting that kind of love. I was like,
right. You're like, I'm trying to outsmart you, but yeah,
don't
you're
worry
right.
about it, you know. And I also tell my jurors, or what I call my listeners, I've on hold in court. We drop new episodes every Wednesday where you get your podcast. And I'm like, y'all, please don't blow your girl's spot up. You know, like I'm trying to get a husband. I'm trying to get a father for this unborn baby I'm trying to have. I need you to just, you know, all be in alignment. Let's keep it cute until we've landed the guy.
Well, that's what I love about you too. It's because, so, I mean, I love that you're yourself, but I also love that you have this serious side to you and you have your boundaries and you can tell. And I think a lot of us as women have a hard time
with boundaries. Boundaries are hard, Chanel. I mean, and listen, you know, those of us that use the term boundaries, we've all been in a lot of therapy. Okay. You know, right?
You know, I'm in it. Yeah. Better help people.
Boundaries is such a like, we've done it, we're doing our work term. But it's real. But it's real, you know. So I love therapy. I'm a big proponent actually of talking very publicly about therapy, particularly as it relates to the Black community in therapy. I don't know if you know this. A lot of people are shocked when I tell them, you know, historically in the Black community, therapy has been stigmatized as a white people thing.
I've heard this with my right? Black friends, yes.
Yeah, and it's kind of my generation and going forward that is trying to work to destigmatize that and say, no, you know what, guess what? You can pray, you can have faith, and you can seek out support from professionals that can help you along your emotional healing journey. So it's been great. I'm so here for therapy.
Why do you think it's a stigma in the Black community?
I think it's around church. I think historically, you know, when you start thinking about ways that, you know, Black Americans have survived, you know, our experience in America from chattel slavery through the Jim Crow South to this moment of Black Lives Matter and everything that's going on, a lot of trauma has caused our people to really lean into faith and a belief system of a greater tomorrow, because this life has been very hard for generations of Black folk. So there is this reconciliation that has to take place where one can reconcile, if I'm putting all my faith in God and I'm praying to God on my knees every night for better this, better that, well, what am I seeing a therapist for? You know, it's been the historical conflict, I think. And I think what's great is that today we're getting to a place where people, including the Black church, are making space for the duality, for the both, for prayer and spirituality and connectedness around faith and the seeking of support through therapy. And yeah, it's great.
I love it. Because it's important. You know, I also feel like, you know, I came from a Jewish background, and so sometimes.
And are you religiously Jewish? Or?
I'm not, but my parents
but your parents are. Okay.
But you know, I come from a Colombian Middle Eastern background, so they're minority, and they're very on. You don't need therapy. We believe in God. So there's a little bit I can understand.
But I think it's very similar to, you know, Latin and Hispanic communities as well. Just very heavily religious communities in general, I think.
Right. But it is true when you say there has been a stigma that you want to destigmatize for the Black community, because I do think therapy helps.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't make it without it, girl.
I couldn't. Oh my God. I literally was talking to my therapist like last night, being like, and they help you through. So I'm happy that you're an advocate of mental health. Big
advocate. I mean, I've suffered at times with bouts of depression and anxiety. You know, I have active anxiety and have since undergraduate school.
Oh, you would never tell.
Oh, well, my work, honey, my boundaries.
You can
and a little Celexa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a 5 milligram girl a day, and it's helpful, you know, just taking care of yourself. Yeah.
Yes,
And I talk very publicly about it for that reason.
Yeah, and that's what I want. So I want to get into that. Like, okay, so also the other reason why we're obsessed over you is because I think you're the first woman, I believe, in reality TV history, but also in the Housewives history where you will stand up for yourself and say, hey, I am going to speak facts and I am the source. We are not going to go, and I'm going to bring this up recently if we could talk about.
Yeah.
You know, Page Six has recently reported.
Yes, let's
and
talk about it.
I was like, whoa, Eboni is my hero, and this is a woman we got to learn from because we cannot be scared anymore as a society to run away. I think that's the problem here, right?
Yeah.
And I think that you're standing up for the Black community, which is going to stand up now for us as a society, as women.
100%.
And as human beings when we're scared. Because I look at you and I'm like, whoa, what would Eboni do? So for those of you who aren't aware, Page Six recently reported that allegedly, the public is blaming the low ratings, which has only been one episode, which, by the way, the on-demand ratings that people aren't aware don't come in yet.
Yes. It takes literally 3 to 7 days to calculate.
And then they take the total. But we won't get into the statistics. But they're blaming, saying that it's due to a couple of things that we're going to get into, but recently due to a lot of, you bringing up the race situation, and which is a very big situation and important. Here's the funny thing. If you didn't bring it up this season, it would be, why isn't it being brought up?
Of course. Because that critique has shown up in other franchise.
That's the catch-22 that kind of bothers me. I'm sure you're frustrated, but I'm frustrated. So they reported that. So they're saying that it's because you were talking about the race. What do you feel about, what do you want to clarify about this? Because you went on your Instagram and you're like, I'm not giving Page Six a comment. You guys got to better get your facts straight, and I'm going to talk about my truth. A lot of people don't have the guts to do that, and I'm just wondering, how did you get to that point?
It's really out of my respect for the audience, Chanel. I feel that the audience is so due fact-based perspective and insight and truth. I'm not somebody that does on background and not knocking it. Everybody's got their way they handle the press and the things. I'm just a straight shooter. If Page Six or TMZ or any other or for that matter Vanity Fair or Variety wants to know from me what I think about something they're going to report on, I'm going to go on the record and tell them exactly what I think from what I know, from my lived experience. So it's out of respect for the audience, because I just think, first of all, I am a day one fan of Housewives franchise from season 1, episode 1, Real Housewives of Orange County, through every franchise. So I have such alignment really with the viewer experience. So every other day, just like you, just like everybody, Chanel, I'm seeing another 6 headlines as it relates to our reunion, our this, our show, our casting, our ratings. Nobody knows what to believe. So the best I can do is just go on record, either through my social media channel or through a publication, and say my truth, and my truth is simply this. There are a lot of reasons for, and I haven't seen like hardcore numbers. So let me start with that. Maybe this is the lawyer in me. Like, I would need to see the Nielsen report before I went on some deep dive conclusion.
Does
here.
anyone even, and I don't know who came up with that number.
I don't even know where these numbers are coming from, but let's go on the premise. Right. Let's go on the premise that the numbers are down. And let's go on the premise that, as Sarah Haynes said on The View last week, the numbers are down in every single linear platform show. Amen. Period. Why? It makes sense. I'm not even mad that the numbers are down around those contexts, We're outside, thank God. Right? RHONY premiered last season during the almost day one of the shutdown. Yeah. People had nowhere they could go, and it was awful. And so now people are getting vaccinated. The world is starting to open up, keep us safe from the Delta variant, God, and Lambda variant, which I also heard is creeping up. But people are outside. People are traveling. People are taking their children on vacation. People are seeing their parents for the first time in over a year and a half. God bless them. That I'm not going to be mad at. So the last thing people want after a year and some change, almost a half, of Zoom and Google Meetups and what's the other one? Microsoft Teams is another freaking screen. Yeah. So people are living life instead of being glued to a screen. And then there's the show, which is, full of really different energy this season for a variety of reasons. We're a small cast because, of a lot of different reasons, including COVID. Mm-hmm. Having a ton of people on set was just not an option this season. And people haven't really considered that. Yeah. And frankly, yeah. So it's a little bit of a skeleton crew with the cast, and then you've got the necessity of addressing the realities of bringing the first Black woman on a franchise like this in 13 years. And as you might imagine, Chanel, what you see is what you get with me. And Bravo and this production company do a fantastic job of perusing the best and brightest potential women to join this show. And there's a very, very robust vetting process that goes through a potential cast member. And they were very, very sure as to the work that I do for a living. Right? Mm-hmm. The work I do as producer and host of Revolt Black News. They know the work I do on iHeart's The Black Effect podcast network, where Holden Court lives. They know that I have a bachelor's degree from UNC Chapel Hill in Black American Studies. There were no secrets around the level of consciousness, right, that I would bring to this friend group. And also the open-heartedness, and also the temperament of patience, and the willingness to engage with the questions, really primarily honed through my work at Fox News Channel. So what people are experiencing is also, this is very much the story Bravo wanted to tell. And I'm very happy to say the network has stood behind me in the recent statement that they released late last week, saying that we invited Eboni to join this show to be her full authentic self. And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but you can check it out on their Instagram page. And that's what she did. And we're proud of her, and we're proud of the show. It's not just me. They're proud of the women. I'm proud of my castmates in the sense that we made it. We made it, and we went through really hard shit together, including the pandemic, including being thrown together in the midst of a racial reckoning, the likes of which our country hadn't really seen since the civil rights movement. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what it is. And coming out of a controversial, polarizing presidential election. So those were our cards, and I think we played them as best we could.
Do you feel like, were you hurt or taken back by the fact that now we're talking about race? We're talking about the fact that this exists.
Right.
The blame game, the demeaning, you can articulate it better, but did that come into play for you? Were you like, wait a minute, okay.
I wasn't hurt.
Why aren't they blaming, and we're going to get to Ramona. Why aren't they blaming Ramona? Why aren't they blaming someone else for?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
And again, this is where I'm blessed because I've done this work for so long in different places, both as a practicing attorney in criminal defense work for many years in Charlotte, North Carolina, and as a journalist in various news outlets we talked about, right? I wasn't hurt nor shocked because this is revolutionary work, right? Because and this relates in this moment to me as a Black woman on this show, but we could substitute that for being a trans woman in a space. We could substitute that for being a Jewish person in a space, or a Muslim person in a space. Anybody that has the audacity, Chanel, and I know you've experienced this yourself, to confront and challenge, even with love, a status quo that has been normalized and upheld by status quo members and those that are adjacent to it. We'd be shocked as to how many people that are not part of a status quo system in this country, but whose identity demands reliance upon the upholding of it, right? So this is like deep shit, really.
Yeah, deep shit.
Deep shit. And so when someone like me who dares to do the disruption of those status quo norms, and even the questioning of these concepts, whether it's white fragility, whether it's, microaggressions around Black women, whether it's whatever it is going to be met with real angst and real hostility and real pushback on one hand. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, I can't show you how many strangers who have shown up in love for me to say, thank God, while some of your castmates are not appreciative of this, I would have loved to have been at Harlem Night. I would have loved to have been there and gotten a candle and the tea and gotten an experience around Black American experiences. And that's from people that look like me and many white women as well. And that fit, into the BIPOC beyond that. So it's a dope thing, but it's going to be met with energy, that's scared and fearful and a bit upset to see what has been so long established as a status quo normalcy, not just in America, but especially on reality TV and especially on RHONY, to see that be disrupted. That feels very unnerving for some and very empowering to others.
Right. And that's what's empowering to me and inspirational to me is that you will fight for you. And it doesn't matter who's on your side, who's not on your side. And I think a lot of us, we're scared. We're scared to get canceled. That term, we're scared people will label us. We're scared what people think of us. And you're just like, no, this is who I am. and this is my truth, and
Yeah.
you can believe it and stick around, and you don't have to believe it. But I wish you love.
And that's fine too.
Right.
Right. I'm not trying to convert anybody to my belief system, Chanel. You know what I mean? I'm very open to people living in their truth and authenticity. But I think that's where there can be some awkwardness and some cringeworthiness in the season, as in life, because when people insist on running from their authenticity, then it's difficult to share space with me, to be candid. You know what I mean? I think that's a lot of what people are seeing on the season. And then, I think by the time this episode we're taping airs, we will have seen Black Shabbat, I think.
Wow,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Can you talk to us about that?
I want to talk to you about Black Shabbat is amazing. It's a trip. It becomes, I don't want to spoil too much, but it's a hell of an episode. And it was a hell of a night. And that's the other thing. Yes, I'm a proud Black woman, and I'm in love with Black culture and my experience. But I know enough to know that my humanity as a Black woman and as a woman, period, is inextricably linked to the humanity of others, including the Jewish community. So a lot of the work that I do in real life for many years now is about reaffirming and strengthening the relationship between Black and Jewish communities.
Wow, that's unbelievable, and we so need that. And it's
We
not talked
so
about.
need this.
This is not talked about a lot. I
Yeah.
am so happy you're bringing, because you're at least smart enough to and educated enough to talk about it.
Yes.
And you've experienced
And I've
it.
experienced it, and I've gone to Israel several times, and I do this work, and actually am blessed to sit on an advisory board for my dear friend Archie's organization, Jubilong, and she does these amazing Shabbats every Friday, and that's where Black Shabbat kind of came from. Is I met Archie many years ago at a Shabbat she hosted, and it happened to be only Black political leaders from New York in attendance. And it was so dope, Chanel. Like I gotta bring you to Archie's, by the way.
And I gotta also invite you to now Shabbat dinner.
Yes, honey,
at the
I live
Omari's.
for Shabbat.
Oh.
Listen.
I'm like in love with you right now. I'm
Yeah,
obsessed with you.
I live for Shabbat. And I always bring good wine. But I wanted to bring that. And yes, I'm not a Jewish person and would never step on the toes of any previous or current Jewish housewives, Mazel Talia, who's deep into her conversion process.
I want to ask you after that how you feel about that. This is so cool.
It's
right
so
now.
dope, right? And this conversation we're having, even Chanel, this is what I really want this season to be about. If I could wave a magic wand, it's not teaching or preaching. It's the integration of our lived experiences and how we together in tandem, because you're showing up with open-heartedness and authenticity and I'm meeting you with it, what's possible through that shared humanity.
But that's the thing. And that's why I feel like I'm happy you're clearing everything up, because I want to know why do you think people think, or why do you think the women on the show this season, why did they have such an uncomfortable, hard time talking about race? Do you think it's because they just don't know better? I mean, what do you feel about it?
It's so hard to speculate because I am just getting to know these women. And I think that's something else that people don't have clarity around is they are used to a vintage Housewives season where you are taking an organic, intact friend group and throwing them in front of a camera and following them. Well, spoiler alert, that's not what happened this season with me. I did not know the women, right? And so I'm getting to know them in real time in front of cameras. And it's an amazing journey. And I think, it's interesting in these more recent seasons of vintage shows, whether it's Beverly Hills, and we're seeing it with Sutton and Crystal and Garcelle. And, we saw it in Dallas with Tiffany Moon and I forgot who
Cameron Westcott.
Cameron Westcott,
Yeah.
exactly. This is real life shit. This is what the Petri dish and the sociology and the ultimate life experience of experiment, really, of Real Housewives looks like in 2021. And so I'm asking questions of my castmates, not to gotcha, not to cancel them, not to put them in a bad way, because I'm just looking for authentic connection. Where do we have shared values? And where do we have a value system, and this is the hard part, that's so far apart that like a real friendship's not possible? So instead, what we have to do is kind of settle for what's more like a coexistence. And I wasn't going to come into this show and into this group with preconceived notions of people's limitations based off what I saw on a television screen 5 years ago, 6 years ago, or even 6 months ago. because I felt like that wasn't fair to my castmates. And I wouldn't want them to think they know me from news or whatever. So it's like, yeah, like we're feeling each other out, and that can be hard for people. And I think they didn't necessarily know where I was coming from with some of the questions and some of the inquiries. But I feel like I said it in most of the scenes, and certainly you hear it in the interview portions of the show, where it's like, listen, when I say white supremacy, I am not invoking some taboo label that's designed to get you canceled out of culture. I'm challenging you in the vertical of a current day white supremacy, which we know are not the hatred of folks and the hatred of black. That's not white supremacy. White supremacy is anything and anybody, and to be clear, white supremacist and white supremacy is not only upheld by white people. There are people of color every day doing the work of white supremacy. Put a pin in that. But it's any person or system that upholds a notion of white dominance in society, whether conscious or unconscious. So if we can have consciousness around it, now we can do the work of deconstructing it if we choose to. And that's where I'm coming from.
I understand. And see this is what people also don't understand. They don't get to see all of it because the show has to also cover certain.
It's 44 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They only know really 20% of you, not 100% of you.
Sure.
And it is important to talk about this, because if you don't talk about this, white people in general are not going to understand.
And many black people too. Many black people. That's the thing.
Can
and
many
I mean, this is not
why do you sorry to interrupt,
no,
why do you think in general that that white people wanted to suppress black people? Like, do you feel it's jealousy? Do you feel it's control?
I think it's inherited. I think okay, let's go back to, this is very like historical here, right? We have to go back to the founding of our wonderful country that I love and you love, and my hero James Baldwin loved, and he said, I love America so much, it is the best country in the world, and that is why I reserve the right to critique her as I do, with love, so that we can be what we all want to be: pursuit of happiness, a society that is around greatest level of humanity and equality. So if those are our goals, and we know, like, hello, if 2020 summer taught us nothing else, everybody put up their black square, right? Everybody said Black Lives Matter, almost everybody. And everybody kind of said collectively, in like the first time in my generation, we got a problem here. We got a real problem where a black man named George Floyd got the life snuffed out of him in real time, on camera, and nobody did anything about it. Right. So as horrific as this brother's murder was, it brought together a society in America that says time's up on this. We got to do better. Sonia Morgan says it in the episode. We got to do better by our black brothers and sisters in this moment, because we can, and we know better, and we know better, and now we do better. Right. It's great. But we were brought here from the African diaspora for chattel slavery. What was the thinking? Well, we need labor, hard physical labor, to build this country up. Got it. Who are we going to get to do it? Well, we had to exterminate the Native Americans because they were here and not on board with the program. And many of them were subject to smallpox and other disease that made them not exactly fit for the work of building this country from ground up. So they imported Africans who had bodily functions that made us, frankly, more capable. We were immune from certain diseases. We had the physical strength, and they told themselves, the colonizers, that we were inferior in these ways: intelligence, humanity. We were told that we were brutes. We were animalistic in nature, and we were, by definition, and this is not just my words, this is in the when you look at the segregationist papers that led to the Civil War, slavery is mentioned 80 times in those papers, Chanel, talking about the natural existence of white superiority in humankind. So these are deeply intrinsic, I'm going all day, but these are deeply intrinsic notions of levels of humanity. This is all broken down beautifully in Isabella Wilkinson's Caste. So you take that and you fast forward all these many years to now, and those things don't just go away magically because there was an Emancipation Proclamation signed, or because there was the Civil Rights legislation of the 1960s signed. Those sentiments of who's intelligent and moral enough to exist in equality of society, those are still outstanding questions. And those are the challenges. I mean, I saw it at the Yad Vashem when I was in Israel. right? And
God,
you
that's
see,
so sweet that you know that.
of
like,
course,
yeah.
because and you look at the Nuremberg laws, and you see how they were derived. They didn't come out. Hitler didn't get that out of the clear blue sky. He got it from Alabama. He got it literally from the segregationalist governors of the 1950s or I guess 30s and 40s at that time, to start compartmentalizing which people, through eugenics and other things, were good enough to be deemed human and who wasn't. And that's how you got the Holocaust. That's how you got chattel slavery. That's how you got the black codes of the Jim Crow South. That's how you got the extermination of the Native American indigenous people in this country. And we got to do better because now we know better. That's it.
Agreed. And so and that's the thing. We watch it in the episodes. And let me tell you something. You are one of the most fun woman on the show.
I'm a bag of fun.
You're
Chanel.
a bag of fun, and
Tell
you
the
can.
people.
And let me tell you something. You can tell that right off the bat.
So fun.
You always want to have fun.
I'm with the shenanigans. I'm with
Right?
the shits, as the kids say.
And that's what I think kind of bothers me, even though I'm not supposed to be bothered as a journalist, right? As a journalist, sorry.
Yeah, but you're human.
But I'm human.
And you're a woman, and you know that, like, if you have the audacity to lean into this kind of conversation, and this is really sexist, is what we're talking about, that people strip women of the right to do this and that.
Correct.
And, do a booty pop, which was in defense of me and Sonia.
Which was so
fun.
fun.
Not a twerk or a tweak. What did you? Yeah, tweak. It was a booty pop.
Yeah.
Do that. Running around with tequila because in a state of crisis, one must grab the tequila bottle to go to the Halloween party. Priorities. I'm totally with all the shits. And wait till you see the final episode. I participated in some shenanigans that shocked my mother when she saw the trailer, the first trailer, with the crystal pasties.
Yeah.
We call it a crystal titty moment. But I'm here for all of that. But that doesn't undermine my ability to have this conversation too.
Right. And that's what I want the audience to be. I don't want them to be ignorant. I want them to be open-minded, understand that.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is just your first season. Hello.
Right.
We got more seasons to know Eboni K. Williams. There's so many things to know about. I want to know everything about you. I wish I could have more,
time. I know. Well, I'll come back, but you'll
know.
see soon enough that I go on this deeply personal journey to find my father for the first time. And not just like, go find him, to know who he is. Because I grew up my whole life just not knowing and putting NA for every application I filled out, from driver's license to my first marriage license to my bar exam license, father info. I got nothing. And I can't tell you how I'm a graduate of the Hoffman Institute. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's a beautiful place for healing. And I can't tell you how I realized during my Hoffman experience how illegitimate I have felt my entire life. And I know it has affected my relationships with men, my relationships with friends, and probably even my professional goals. Because how much of me wanting to pursue a media career as a journalist, and there's a lot of different ways to be a journalist. I could have written for a newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pursue that. I pursued the screen, so my face could be up there. And through my work with my brilliant therapist, how much of that is about because I was hoping subconsciously in my heart my missing father would see me one day on the news and say, that might be my little girl. That might be my little girl, and come and find me and rescue me in my fantasy.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Because that's real.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't have to be that way.
Yeah. But it
it
sucks.
is.
Yeah, and it sucks.
And you're here to be strong for yourself and other people, to say, listen, I know this happens to a lot of people.
Yes. And
because
that's why
I felt like
it.
you when you said that. I felt, even though I had two present parents,
Yeah.
I didn't feel they were present. So I felt, if I'm on that screen, or my ex-boyfriends, if I'm on that screen,
you can't ignore me. You
or
can't
that
ignore
Jewish
me.
community, if I'm on that screen, I'm someone important.
And you're seen, and you can't be ignored. And it's important. It's deep.
It's deep. And I understand it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of women or people are going to understand it. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about what we can expect from the rest of the season with you in that journey?
Yes.
And in general.
In general, I mean, they basically put it in the mid-season trailer. So I was like, okay, I guess the cat's out of the bag. I find him, Chanel. I find him. I know. I can't believe it. I can't believe at 37, I was ready to find him and ready for the good or the bad.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how that's going to be received after almost 40 years,
Sure.
And I did the work to reconcile myself with any outcome, and I'm glad I did, which we'll talk about when I come back. But I find him, and I can't tell you, just knowing a name, just seeing a photo, what that does for my ability to show up with, I'm someone's daughter. I'm not random. I'm not illegitimate. I'm not unworthy. I am whole. And I am actually really excited about dating with that mentality. You know, I'm not looking for dad anymore in my love life. I'm not looking to be saved. I'm not looking to be legitimized through husband because I'm already legitimate.
I love that. And this is important to talk about. The reason I'm tearing up.
I know. I mean,
my God.
and you have such beautiful eyes,
No,
too.
sorry.
And
I'm like sitting here crying and shit.
Eyeshadow.
I'm like, I'm supposed to be strong. But no, I feel because it relates and it's inspiring.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for you and your relationship with your dad. And because you are worth it and because you are legitimate and you need to speak up for other people who are going through it who don't feel that way.
Yeah. Because what in society affirms women in those spaces? You know, for generations, we got to get married and take somebody else's last name. And I'm not knocking that. I'm very traditional in those ways, but we got to look underneath those meanings, you know?
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm so excited for this episode and your journey. We're gonna wrap up soon. I just want to have a few questions from the audience too.
Yeah, let's do it.
So on this topic, I want to know what do you want to clear up actually? So there's a lot of growth with you and Ramona. Ramona, sorry. Yeah. Ramona, which is so cool because she never accepts any newbies, right? But she did take a liking to you. And then there's some bumps in the road where she doesn't want to discuss. Now, a lot of the audience, again, allegedly is saying the show should do without Ramona next season. Ramona's been fired because of not talking about race. So there's a lot of things to clear up. What would you
She's
like
not
to
fired. Let's start with that. Okay. Let's start with like to me, what should be the obvious.
Okay.
Absolutely no casting decisions have been made. And people that know RHONY or know Housewives know that. They would never even consider what next season's going to look like before reunion. Duh. You know, and so, no, nobody's fired. Stop. The second thing is, you know, it's interesting with Ramona and I because I think that we initially had some level of kind of, and I use the word intentionally, not with any malice. There was a superficial connection that we made because we literally have the same measurements. Like literally, we're both like, no, not kidding. We're both like 34 double D, 526 waist. 30, yeah, we both wear a size 6.5, 7 shoe. We both wear a lot of the same things. Like we both have the same, I don't know what they like, Sevens jeans. We both have the same rag and bone boots. We both have like
style, right?
Style, like some, you know. Yeah, I mean we have different style, but
you brought the style. Let's be real. You brought the style of this.
Thank you.
But I get what you're saying.
Yes, but there's like certain style points. We also have a lot of the same taste. Like even she loved that I introduced her to a French 75, and she was like, and we you know, played bartender together at her house, all off camera, making them together. And, you know, she texts me when she's in the Hamptons with her friends, yo, E, what's the recipe? Like, we both enjoy a nice fruit forward, but also like vanilla forward Cabernet. Like, it seems small, but there are points of connection around the kind of women that we are and what things in life we enjoy. There's a lot of similarity. And so from that, I was excited that we would continue to build. And we did, but then, like I said, I'm kind of kicking the tires, if you will, to see what other spaces we can connect and where there are limitations. So that's what the audience sees throughout the season.
The listeners are asking, do you think she should be fired or should it be recasted due to her not wanting to have these conversations? Or do you think that the cast should remain because you're on such a roll discussing really important topics, you're bonding and you're forming real friendships? I mean...
I don't advocate for anybody's termination.
Right.
I'm not that person, personally. I'm a person that as awkward, cringy as it is, let's just have the fucking conversation.
Yeah.
Truly, I'm into it. That's the growth. We got to, you know, it's like, what's the saying? You can't go above it or under it. You got to go through it. And so the firing of any one of us prohibits the opportunity to go through it. Unless there was some other issue at play. But in terms of the show and the conversations on the show, I don't think anyone has done anything on the show that warrants termination.
Right. Okay. So there you have it. You see, you need to hear the clarifications because everybody wants to make up rumors.
All these narratives. Yeah, that's
Why do you think?
Because some people are just miserable, Chanel. It's very sad.
It's so hard to comprehend
it's sad, yeah. And it's like people go to the worst possible scenario and they go to the worst possible thing. And, it's like, shit, what in the world? So I'm not into that. I'm into, all the love. And listen, when some viewers who are not pleased with these conversations, but they show up on my social in a way that's at least respectful and they ask a real question, like, why do you, get to say, I'm not used to being around this many white women, but other things but somewhat Luann can't call you angry. And I get to distinguish those two things where it's like, the angry comments rooted in this deep-seated racial trope that extracts Black women in particular their right to have intense emotion that can be categorized as something other than anger, because we know anger is designed to shut down energy. When I say I'm not used to being around this many white women at one time, that's not a derogatory thing at all. That's me saying, like most people in the country, Chanel, I am used to a kind of homogenous friend group that's mostly comprised, since college at least, of Black women, because that's what's in my space. My sorority sisters are Black. My law school study group was mixed, and that's why two of my best friends happen to be white women, but not in group. There's these individual relationships with white women or Jewish women or Asian women, Chinese specifically women that I love and enjoy. But like being in a group full of like 5 white women, that's a lot. And that hasn't happened for me since high school, where I went to a predominantly white high school.
And you were just being honest.
Just
These are
being
facts.
this is facts. And let's put this fact out and talk about my efforts to connect with this all white group of women, because that's important too. And I'm sure they were challenged by trying to make space for this, not just any old Black woman, but like an extremely Black woman, like a Black woman that shows up with consciousness and energy around this issue every day.
What do you think is going to take for them and all of us to move forward as a human race, to respect the Black Lives Matter movement, to have these conversations? What do you think it's going to take from you and your castmates to move forward?
Yeah.
And I know this is a 2-part question. And do you think, and who do you want to see come back next season? Like, how do you want to make, I feel like I don't know why, but I feel like it's up to you.
No, girl.
I know it's not.
Chanel,
no, I know. I'm not going to start another rumor. No, it's not.
Ain't up to
but
me,
you know what I'm
child.
saying? Like, in general, I feel like, what do you think from being an observer, from being inside, from being close to them? What do you think needs to change or move forward?
I think I'll answer the first part. I think what's necessary for all of us, because it's not just on them, it's me and it's all of us as a cast. And I think we model as a cast what's possible for our nation. That's why I accepted the job, frankly, because I think I see the possibility of our success, if we can be successful here, to make space for one another as women of different life experiences. We can be a model for what it could look like. And that's exciting to me, to be a part of that. What's required of that? It's like what I talked about in the interview, understanding that each of our humanities are inextricably linked to the other, which is why I have such admiration for Sonia's work, for instance, with the LGBTQ plus community. Sonia understands that her existence and safety as a woman is inextricably linked to that as the safety of a trans woman or a gay man or someone else in society. So when we really deeply as a group can understand it's not just about Black this, white this, gay this, Jewish that, it's an understanding of the inextricable link that exists between all of us, we'll get there. What does next season look like? I think any and everybody that's currently on the cast, and maybe some historic cast members, because I always love a good vintage housewife personally. And I know for sure there's a robust casting going on right now, and they're looking at new women every day for this show, and I think that's important to always bring fresh energy. I think everybody that's wanting to engage in those conversations, and not only those conversations, but engage in the possibility. Let me say it that way. Not even about the conversation, because I don't think next season, frankly, is going to be a bunch of conversations about this stuff. I think it's going to be about the doing. I think we will have moved past the talking.
Yep.
And now let's get to the motherfucking doing.
Yes. Okay? I want to see them in action.
Yes. So I think everybody that's ready to get to the doing of what does this look like, and when we're having fun, when we're going on big trips and international travel and all the things, that's going to be the vibe.
That's important to know. Would you, if you're asked back, do you think you would return back to Real Housewives of New York City? I hope I can ask this question.
With the tough hitting question.
I know.
Listen, I think there's a lot of variables that there's a second half of the season to play out.
Right.
There's a reunion to tape and to witness how that lands. And then there's, what does the cast potentially look like next season? I think all of those would be, from my end, considerations. And that's not even getting to Bravo and Shed's considerations, which precursor mine. Before I get to make a choice, they get to make a choice. Am I invited back? If I'm invited back, then trust me, I will, take that decision very seriously, because it's a high stakes choice for them and for me.
I love that. It's an equal decision, and that's what it always should be.
Absolutely.
It's a two to tango, people.
Yeah.
Always.
And listen, this is a platform that pre-existed me, so I want to give reverence and honor to that. They control who gets the privilege of appearing on this platform. If they extend me an invitation, then I need to be really thoughtful and intentional around what that looks like for a season 2.
I love that. I think this is one of the best seasons.
I love that.
That Real Housewives and Bravo has ever done. I stand by you. I stand by them. I think this was a very deep season. We needed it. Yeah. Sometimes I can't watch always superficial stuff. I need the balance, as an audience.
Sure. I think this season will age incredibly well. That like right Please now the block is hot. I get it, and it's for some, like yourself and like so many people that I run into in the airports and pools everywhere. And it's really hard for others. But I think when the chapter's written and there's like the 3rd volume of all these wonderful housewives books that are being written right now, this season 13 of RHONY will be revolutionary.
I believe it.
For many reasons, not just me, for the work that these women have done as well.
I love that. Two more questions and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
Where do you stand now with Luann? Because I know you guys also had a good start, but then, there were some conversations you had to have, and it seemed like again, there's more to the season, but do you want to give us a little bit of where are we going to see your relationship head? Where do we see you?
On the season? Great. On the season, Lou and I go to, I think that the conversation that Lou and I had at the tattoo parlor, which was, Sonia brought it up, for the record. Sonia brought up, Ebony's not just Black Lives Matter. She's a fun gal. We had a great time in Philly. And that went, left because, people weren't really ready for that conversation. But Luann, to her credit, sat there and listened and engaged and pushed back when she felt the need to, and I received it. And so for Lou and I, that conversation was transformative. I think from that conversation on, Luann and I had a mutual respect and creation of a little more space for one another as women. And she also was fabulous at Black Shabbat. Can't say that about everybody. Stay tuned. So yeah, that's what I would say about Lou and I the rest of the season.
And then Leah. So we know that you and Leah are very close.
Yes,
she's also
very close.
Converting to Judaism, which I love that you two are so for the Jewish people too.
Absolutely.
And you actually, during the hard hitting time with Israel and Palestine, you and Leah were the only 2 housewives and in general who stood up. So thank you for that.
Had to. Chanel, and to your point of like worried about getting canceled, I got a lot of fucked up DMs around that post. And to me, it was the most simplistic post. I didn't even say anything particularly radical. It was just fuck anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Can we not say that?
Right.
Get
it was so
out
simple.
of here. And while I'm at it, I am absolutely for the rights of the Palestinian people. And if you don't understand the duality of those 2 statements, you don't even know enough to talk about it.
Amen.
Period.
Amen.
And I get really intense about it.
I love it. I love that you're passionate and you're
very much
supportive.
So.
And this is, by the way, everyone listening, we should be the same way with the Black community, with our Black brothers and sisters, with our Asian community, with our Asian sisters, our Muslim brothers.
I had to call Crystal Kung Minkoff the other day. Fuck that.
Can you talk just quickly because
I know we got to wrap up. Yeah, I'm just not for the shits, So whether it's whatever community, when I saw Crystal's post, and then Crystal and I are close, we hang out. We had dinner here at Nobu in New York. We had drinks in LA recently. I was out there. That's, that is a new friend of mine, but extremely close. We have a lot of shared values, and it was very, very instant connection because we immediately recognized the shared value system, right? But anyways, she put up this shitty, horrific, anti-Asian tirade that someone sent her. And I immediately picked up the phone. Before my post, I picked up the phone, which is, by the way, that's a little thing I have. I can't stand when people's first overtures on social, when you have a personal relationship, you know. But anyways, I picked up the phone. I was like, yo, what the fuck, Chris? And we talked about it. And actually, I'll tell you this. Before I called Crystal, I called one of my dearest friends. Her name is Victoria. She's also of Chinese descent, but American, first generation American here. And I met her, doesn't matter. But we've been friends for a couple of years. And so I called Vicky first to say, I have a new friend who's Chinese descent as well, obviously Asian, and she's experiencing anti-Asian hate. Educate me on the best way to show up for her in this moment. What is the best thing for me to say to my friend in this moment? And she gave me the best advice. So I just say that as an example of, it's not about what to say and knowing the right magic words. I can't tell you how many, I had a counsel, Chanel, advise me before I put up that Instagram post about anti-Semitism.
Wow.
Yes. I mean, I knew what I wanted to say, but I needed to know what's helpful versus what's hurtful to the community. Because sometimes people were putting up shit wasn't helpful.
That's true. And that's what takes this is why education is important, and going out of your comfort zone is important.
Yeah. And I share that to say, I ain't trying to be the education on everything. I am a woman of question, Chanel. I'm a woman who's every day waking up trying to get it right and show up for my brothers and sisters and members of the non-binary community as best I know how. Even that, when I was podcasting, I would always just say men and women, and the good king, David Johns, who does incredible work in the space. Don't forget about the non-binary brother, community.
Right.
Got it.
That's amazing. Tell us also, why do you feel you and Leah connect the most? I think maybe this is just the way I observe it, or it seems like she gets you the most, or gets the conversations happening, or where's the disconnect between her and the other woman where it's like...
I would say Sonya's in that category as well.
Okay.
From my experience with Sonya. I think Sonya does an incredible job of getting it as well. And not because Sonya's got the magic words, or not because Sonya's got all the answers, because Sonya's got the presence of mind to sit with the inquiry. And same with Leah. Leah doesn't get it all, and she doesn't pretend to get it all, but she's made space for the conversation. And that's really all I would ask of any of the castmates.
Well, and from us, what do you, that's what I was going to ask you. And I think I asked you this, but what would you like to see from us in general as a human race to start doing for the Black community? What do we need to start doing?
I really think it's so simple. I think it's really as simple as two things. A, recognizing, because Blackness is one of the most misunderstood things in the world, and especially in America. Understanding that Blackness is not just a horror story. There was a scene where Ramona talks about, like, you look like you suffered to me, and you talk about it's not, Blackness is not just about trauma. Blackness is not just a trauma story or a sad story and a heartbreaking story, which is why I think a lot of people run away from it, because they're scared to sit with the pain of the Black experience. And that includes other Black people, by the way. I would ask you to create space for a fuller understanding of Blackness that might and probably will surprise you.
I love that. Yeah. And Shervan, because I wanted to talk about just in general with Harlem Night. Harlem Night was such a beautiful night. You did such a great job. I'm so happy and proud of you. What a beautiful, classy, amazing.
It was a beautiful
history.
Night.
Like, I learned,
Thank you.
And that's what's important. Because I like learning from these shows. I don't like just enjoying the drama. I want to learn. I want to take away. Why do you think? It seemed like you felt Shervan wasn't on the same.
Oh, Bershawn.
Oh my gosh, Shervan. I'm saying that from. Sorry,
okay.
Bershawn. It didn't seem like you and Bershawn were on the same page, meaning in terms of like rooting for the Black community, or just having the same, or am I saying this right? Having the same mindset of how to advocate for the
I won't take away from Bershawn, because again, I was just meeting her. Right. The same time you guys were meeting her. Ramona's asked to bring a friend. Sure, bring a friend. I will definitely not strip Bershawn of her intention of advocating for the Black community. What I will say is, and it was a good thing to say, Black people are not a monolith, as no other community is. We had different approaches to the work. Bershawn wanted, as she said, to start from points of similarity with the women, which is one way to do it. And I wanted to start with beautiful points of distinction to bring us to the similarity in the end. Versus, to me, what can be difficult, which is starting with, we're all the same, and look at all the ways in which we're the same, kind of like what happened with me and Ramona. And then once you start getting to the harder stuff, there's a disconnect that can be irreparable if not facilitated very carefully.
I see. So that's good to know, because now you clarify that, and hopefully we see more of, it was unfortunate to see the Bershawn and Sonia. I wanted to get your quick thought about why you thought there was such a disconnect.
I just hated that whole thing.
Right.
That's all I'll say about that. I wasn't on anybody's side. That was just a mess.
Right.
To me, that was a hot mess. But some people really love spectacle, Chanel.
But you know what was nice? It was nice to see both of them the next episode for the bar to really talk it out. And even Sonia was surprised she was receiving, and she said, I received the apology, or I understand where you're coming from.
And she did. And I thought that was very vulnerable of Bershawn and, frankly, unnecessary. I don't know if I felt that she really owed Sonia an apology around that. Okay. I think there were some other things that weren't shown and, whatever. But they were both a hot mess in that scene, to me.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Any expectations we can expect from the reunion? Or I might not be able to talk about it.
I just don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know. Yeah.
Well, hopefully it's going to be an amazing
reunion.
I'm
sure it's going to be hot.
And I'm so excited for the rest of the season. And what's your favorite place to go, Chanel in the City audience, what's your favorite place, this is the last question, to go to when you want to escape? A good restaurant you can give us a suggestion, maybe a museum, maybe anything we can.
Sure. I love, where do I love to go? First of all, I love comedy clubs. I love Carol. I love to laugh.
Oh my God.
I'm obsessed. I would love to see you in stand up.
Please, I would love to invite you to my show.
I'm obsessed with stand up. Okay. Obsessed. I also love live music, so I'll check out stuff at City Winery. I love Caroline's. I love. It used to be BB King's, but I think they call it something hall now. So I liked intimate music venues. I love food. I love to eat. So, that's pretty much anything. Ponte Bistro up in Harlem. Where do I go? Downtown a lot. I'm a sucker for sushi of Gary.
I love sushi.
Yes. Just a lot. I'd be here all day, girl. I just love to eat.
Well, Eboni K. Williams, this has been such a pleasure. I love you.
Thank you,
am
sis.
so I'm just so happy for you. I'm happy for this. What a successful season. And we still have more to go.
Yes, a lot more.
It's a great season. And I want everyone to binge watch. If they haven't seen this season yet, I want you to take it in. Where can everybody follow you? And is there anything else you'd like to share for us to check out?
Well, yes, definitely check out every Wednesday, Holding Court with Eboni K. Williams. A lot of RHONY fans have followed the show and they love it. They love. Because you just get an even more unfiltered dose of me and my fabulous co-host, Dustin Ross, who's great. And we do deep dives on everything from like Free Britney to, because it takes legal headlines and it unpacks them from a cultural lens.
Oh, I love that.
So it's great. So it lets, people that haven't gone to law school, you don't need to go to law school. I'll break it all down for you so you understand. It's great. So that's every Wednesday. New episode drops on wherever you get your podcast. And check me out on social. I'm really an Instagram gal. I am a grandma. So TikTok, not there yet. I am on Instagram at Eboni K. Williams. That's it.
I love that. And you could check her out on Real Housewives of New York City every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. So you could check Eboni K. Williams on
Only
Real
on
Housewives
Bravo.
of New York City. Only on Bravo, the best network, one of my favorite networks.
Yes.
And Eboni, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Chanel. I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of what you have built by way of, this platform.
I hope
as a Bravo celebrity yourself, I think that's dope, and that's a model for people to see.
Thank you, and I hope you. This is a platform just for good and to better people, and for you. I want people to know you.
Hi, I'm Eboni K. Williams, and you're listening to me on the Chanel in the City podcast with my girl, Chanel Omari.